And well, so it was. Today I greet you again and give a shout out to all the fans in Poland who hopefully will be jumping up and down because Jan-Krzysztof Duda seems to have done the impossible. What is the impossible? The impossible is beating Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces. That's what's called the impossible, but with Duda, it is possible. So let us see how it was done. So we're going to start off with Magnus obviously being white, Duda being black. E4, C5. It's the Sicilian Moscow variation with the way you see this. Okay. So we have D6, bishop to D5, right away attacking the king, a check. Bishop to D7, takes, takes, castling with white, knight to F6, queen to E2, knight to C6, C3, E6, D4. Look at this. Very kind of symmetrical. It's like a standoff. Who's going to take first on the C file? Well, black did, excuse me. Took with the pawn. Then we take with the other pawn. D5, and again, it's a fight for the center. We move up. E5, knight to D2, attacking the black knight. He takes, takes. Goodbye knights. Then bishops. Oh, this is very aggressive. Wow. I can feel the aggression here. Bishop on B4. Moves out of the way. Castles for black. Queen to D3. Kind of taking control of the center area. E7. Bishop moves back with black. A3. Rook to C8. Okay, that's going to be open line. If the knight moves, and if the knight moves, that's going to be an open line. And black already put a rook on there. Black put a ring on it, put a rook on it. Yeah, put a rook on it. It's going to be an open line soon. So who's going to control that open line? Okay, G3. Knight to A5. As you can see, black is now controlling the C file. Bishop, excuse me, knight went to A5 and B3. Moving up the pawn there. But it's protected by the queen. Bishop to D2. Let's look at the board. What is being protected? What is being attacked? Okay. Queen to B6 to protect that knight and also attacking the pawn, which at this point looks like it's isolated. What will Magnus do? He brings his rook to defend. A6. King to G2, starting to hide. Is a prophylactic move because the C file is open and who controls it? Do that with his black rook. Knight to C6 has come back. Kind of intermittent move. Now it's coming back into the C file again. So the rook is now going towards E1. Interesting. Queen to B5. Okay, they're attacking the other queen. Queen goes to B1. Rook to C7. H4. Watch out when Magnus moves his H. Harry the pawn. Rook to C8. Okay, so we're going to be a battery. See, I told you that C file. He wants control of that C file. Rook to A2. A5. Rook to h1, a4, b4. We did not take, we just go up. Again, protected by the pawn on a3. h6 to meet Harry the pawn on its h4. Bishop to e3. Knight to a7. See, back again to opening up that c file. Bishop, white bishop to d2. Queen to e2. Rook to e1. Is the queen trapped? Let's see. Queen to c4. Wow. So now we've got two rooks and a queen on the c file. Did I not tell you the c file seems to be who's going to control it? You should have put a ring on it. You should have put a rook on it. Anyway. Rook to e3. Okay, trying to maneuver, trying to stop this c powerhouse file. Knight to b5. Rook to d3. Rook to c6. Rook to b2. Bishop to d8. g4. Bishop to b6, repositioning the bishop. Bishop to e3. It's getting tight, like they're both trying to squeeze each other. Like they both have each other at each other's necks. Now who's going to put more pressure? Knight to c3. Wow, look at that. Queen to f1 escapes the knight there. Queen out of the way there to b5. Rook to c2. Knight to e4. Do you see how much the knight movement has been happening here with that black knight? It's been all over the place. That black knight has been like a scalper and a surgeon. Here, there, everywhere. Rook takes on c6. We're starting to take. Rook takes also on c6. Rook to d1. Rook to c4. Knight to d2. Knight takes on d2. We have gotten rid of that all over knight with rook to d2. Queen now goes to c6. Queen to e2. Rook to c3. Rook to a2, protecting the pawn. Bishop out to maneuver on d8. g5 to protect it. Then we take. Queen to c4. Queen takes. We've gotten rid of the queens off the board. Now down to the wire, everybody. Down to the wire. Okay, who's going to win this? Whoever wins this goes into the finals of the World FIDE Cup 2021. d5. Takes. Okay, now by taking, now we're going to attack the pawn. Rook to d2. Now we protect. Takes. Wow. This is how the black lost the rook. But anyway, let's count the pawns. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns that are black to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Black is up a pawn. Let's see what happens next. f4. King to f8. King to f3. King to e7. Bishop to c5 check. King to e6. And that's going to probably be all on the white squares from now on, because you really don't want to be on a black square if the other side has a dark square bishop. King to e3. Interesting. How will Duda respond? King to f5. So which one is he gonna take? He can take either pawn, it seems. King, the white king takes the pawn on d3. g6. Bishop to e3. Bishop to c7. b5. Bishop to d8. King to d4. That's like, it's almost like the king bishop dance. Okay, this is where we come to the Capablanca rule. So, what is the Capablanca rule? If it's this, if in the endings, if you have the same colored bishop, it's good to have your pawns on the opposite colored squares than the bishop. So look at Duda's. He has his pawns on white squares where he has a dark squared bishop. Well, that's not the case for Magnus Carlsen. He is a dark square bishop, and all his pawns except for one are on dark squares. Bishop to b6, check. King to d3. Bishop to d8. King d4. Bishop to e7. Bishop to c1. King to e6. Bishop to d2. Bishop to d8. King to c5. Bishop to a5. Bishop to c1. Bishop to c3. Pawn to b6. d4. King to c4. King to c4. King to d7. Bishop to e3. Does your head hurt anybody? Imagine playing all of these games all of this time and to have such a strong mental presence to be able to do this kind of endgame. Alright? That takes a lot of mental strength and physical stamina. Bishop to b2. Bishop takes on d4. Bishop escapes out of the way and takes on a3. Bishop to e3. Bishop to b2. King to b4. a3. King to b3. King to e6. King to a2. King to d2. King to b3. King to e4. Bishop to d2. Bishop to d4. King takes on a3. Bishop on b6. King takes on b4. Bishop to f2. And at this point is where Magnus Carlsen resigned. So you can see in this position, we have a situation where the dark square bishop cannot do much to attack the black pawns at this point, and this is a winning game for Duda. And with this win, he moves on to the finals, and he will be facing I like to want to say Karjakin in English, like the J is a G, but not in Russian. It's a Y sound, so it's Karjakin. He was one of the youngest grandmaster for many years until Mishra, who has just recently took over that first spot. So he will be playing against Karyakin Duda. Congratulations to Magnus and to Duda for a fantastic game. Thank you all for watching. Hit like and subscribe.